Today we got a story of a spoiled kid who ruins a class play. Basically, the spoiled kid didn't get the role that he wanted, so he needed to make sure that no one else was able to enjoy the play and that the play would not happen. This is a pretty crazy story, so subscribe if you're new and let's jump into it. So we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story Tim. So anyways, Tim was in the 5th grade. And the 5th grade was the last year in the lower segment of his school, as his school was kind of broken up into grades, 1st grade through 5th grade, and then 6th grade through 8th grade. So this was like the last year in the lower segment of his school. And as part of, one of the traditions is the 5th graders at the end of the year, so in the spring, will put on a 5th grade play, which is kind of like the big deal. This was like the big deal. This was the thing that everyone would look forward to, because the entire lower part of the school would get the entire day off from classes. They were still supposed to come into the school, but they got the entire day off from classes, and they would all sit around and they would watch the 5th grade play. So it was really hyped up, and from 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, from all the grades, Tim and his friends would always be so excited for the day when it would be the 5th grade play, because one, it was a pretty fun play to look at, or to watch or whatever, and it was pretty entertaining. But on the other hand, you got a free day off, man. Like, who can complain about no classes for the day? So when it was finally time for Tim and his friends to, audition for the play, they were all really excited. And it was also a really big deal. So for weeks before, there was a lot of rumbling about what actually the play was going to be. And, a lot of people said, oh, it's going to be this, oh, it's going to be that. But eventually they decided on Mary Poppins, right? So Mary Poppins is a kind of a musical, I don't know if you've, it's like a children's show, or it's like a children's movie. Basically, there's like a magical nanny or whatever. And so there's a few main roles. For example, Mary Poppins, right? The magical nanny is one of the main roles. But also there are 2 kids, and I think it's a guy and a girl. And if it's not a guy and a girl, well, then they made it a guy and the girl. Also, for the play, they really had any, gender could do any of the roles. Traditionally, Mary Poppins was a woman, but not necessarily needed to be a woman. And, the guy and the girl, well, whatever, right? Anyone could try out for any spot and get it. So basically, this was a really kind of big thing of not contention, not people were actively I'm going to get that role and you're going to be left in the dust. They weren't straight up fighting between each other for the roles, but definitely the main roles had a bit of contention, and especially the role of Mary Poppins, right? So Tim kind of didn't care what role he got. He was just kind of excited to do the play. He was excited to just be a part of the 5th grade play, as it was such a big deal. And, he didn't want to be background shrub number 72, right? There's definitely layers to it, but as long as he got a role, he'd be happy. However, there was a kid in Tim's class who we're going to call the spoiled kid. The spoiled kid was the spoiled kid because his parents had taught him that if he wants something, he shall deserve it, and that he deserves literally anything that he wants. And he has never basically been told no. Obviously, I think he has been literally told no before, I'm sure. But what I'm trying to say is generally, he has never been told no in his life, and that has consequences on kids. So anyways, the spoiled kid really wanted to be Mary Poppins, and they would, if it was a guy, they would call I don't know, they give a different, maybe they'd still call it Mary Poppins, who cares, right? And so there's a bunch of people that were trying out, a lot of guys, a lot of girls, disproportionately more girls than guys, but the director of the play said anyone could get it, and that's not a factor in who's going to get it, right? So there's a girl, and we're going to call this girl Kate, right? And Kate was a very, very talented actress. She actually would go and, do acting on, talented for a 5th grader, right? She would go and do acting in a local kind of theater group on the side, and on the weekends, and she had a lot of experience, right? She had a lot of experience when it came to stuff like that. So that was definitely factored in, and it was definitely apparent during the day of auditions. So let's skip ahead to the day where the auditions actually happen. So everyone lines up, and everyone's pretty, excited. There's a lot of nervous energy. Tim doesn't have any nervous energy, bro. He's just excited to go on there and just I don't know, say some lines or whatever. He kind of doesn't care because he doesn't really care where he ends up. As long as he's not mysterious tree number 6 in the background, then he should be pretty cool, right? But there's a lot of nervous energy for a lot of people who want to play the main roles. But the spoiled kid had almost no nervous energy because he was going around telling people that he was just genuinely so good, he was so talented, and he was such an epic boss man, level 95 mafia boss, extremely talented, extremely smart, handsome, good-looking, basically a Giga Chad, right? He was telling everyone this, and that he was extremely confident that he would guarantee the role, and that it probably wasn't even worth anyone else's time to try and go for the role anyways. So yeah, that was a little weird. I understand going in with confidence, and especially if you're trying out for a role, especially in a play, I feel like confidence is important. As you know, when you're playing your part, you need to be confident in the role that you're doing. However, confidence is a little different from being a cocky jerk like this kid was, going around telling other people that it wasn't even worth their time to try out for the play because he was just such a Giga Chad winner that they wouldn't even have a chance. Surprisingly, they still tried out for the play. So anyways, eventually the doors open up and the director's like, hey, everyone, welcome. Like, come on in. I'm going to talk to you guys for a second and we'll just jump right into it. Like, we don't want to we don't want to waste any time here because I want to figure out who's going to get what as soon as possible. So they go in there and the director's like, hey guys, I just want to let you know that everybody will get a role. Unless you don't want a role, as we have spots open for, behind the scenes, and a bunch of other spots if you don't necessarily want a front and stage role. However, the script is malleable enough that everybody will get a role. Yes, that doesn't mean that, he says, yeah, that doesn't mean that everyone's roles are going to have the same number of, lines spoken, right? Some will have more than others. Some will speak more than others. Fair, right? That happens. However, everyone will be on stage. So Tim's like, oh, great. Like, I didn't have any worries at all. But like the small worry I had about being anonymous Bush number 48 is no longer a thing because I can just request a role. So he said, hey, when you come up and audition, tell me if you have a preference in your who you get. It's not going to affect too much because I think I'll have a pretty good sense of what character is best for you, but it will definitely go into consideration. And if you have no preference, you can just leave that part blank. So anyways, they all sit down and there's a bunch of... they all sit down in one room, and they're called up one by one to go into another room. I guess it just less pressure for the auditions or whatever, because it was a pretty stressful situation, I guess. I mean, it's as stressful as fifth grade plays go. But anyways, eventually, kids go up, they go in there, and they come out. Eventually, it's time for Tim to get up. Tim gets up, walks into the other room, and kind of just, I don't know, says, hey, I have no preference, I just want a part. And the director's like, okay, cool. If you want to if you want to show off something, you can, but if you're not going for one of the main parts and you don't mind what character you get, I don't know, man, kind of up to you. And so, Tim was like, oh yeah, just give me whatever you want. And it was a pretty cool experience, but now it's time for the spoiled kid to go up and do his part. So yeah, it's finally time for the spoiled kid to go into the audition room, and the spoiled kid gets up, and he turns around, because everyone's kind of sitting there in the non-audition room, kind of just nervously chatting, just having a good time, and he's like, sorry losers, someone's about to secure the number one spot of being Mary Poppins. Meh. And he gets up, and he just, walks out of the room. And once he's out of the room, Tim overhears, the girl who's probably going to get the part being, telling her friend, well, it's going to be sad to see when he doesn't get the part. I bet his ego's going to get crushed. And Tim's like, dang, bro, even she knows that he's clowning, right? So sure enough, he goes up, this spoiled kid goes up into the audition room, and Tim is at least a little interested. So Tim gets up, and he probably shouldn't have done this, but he did it anyways. And he gets up, and he goes all the way to the door and kind of listens in. And so anyways, Tim listens in on the spoiled kid being like, so... is it super, he's like, and the guy was like, oh, what part do you want? He's like, Mary Poppins. And he's like, oh, that's a very competitive part. Do you have a second choice? He says, no, I think it'll be very clear by the end of this audition that I should get the part of Mary Poppins. And the director's like, oh, okay, confidence is good, I guess. So, can you sing this part? Because Mary Poppins is kind of like a musical, a little bit. Or I think they were doing it like a musical or something. The spoiled kid was like, I don't actually know what the song would be, but it'd be imagine this as the song. He sounded like, subscribe to Connor. It was really bad. It was one of the worst sounds that Tim has ever heard. Tim's ears started to actually erupt with blood and just, I'm not going to give a visual. It was bad is what I'm trying to say. It was very much not good. And Tim was like, oh God. Tim knew that probably the spoiled kid wasn't the greatest musician, artist, public intellectual. I don't even know, Giga Chad, whatever he was trying to pretend to be to get the part. But this was like a whole new level of just embarrassment. Like, Tim was starting to just feel bad. Like, as much as, like, no one really liked this kid because he was arrogant and spoiled and all of that, Tim just started to feel bad because it was just so delusional. Or maybe he knew that he was bad and he thought he could compensate with cockiness and arrogance, which, let me just say that confident or cockiness, arrogance, and being terrible at a subject is not a good combination. Yeah, so, I don't know. The director's like, okay, haha, when the kid stops singing his part, right? And he's like, oh, so I'm just going to ask again. Do you have any preferences for a secondary part or anything like that? Like, there's a lot of great backstage work as well. The spoiled kid's like, no, I think it's pretty clear that I'm going to get the Mary Poppins part. And the director's like, well, it's pretty competitive. I wouldn't bet on it. The spoiled kid's like, haha, very funny. I am betting on it. If I could bet my entire life savings of $1 bajillion, I totally would. At this point, Tim's like, okay, I'm out. So Tim gets up, walks back into the room, and the spoiled kid walks back into the room like 30 seconds later and it's like, guys, I know for a fact, like, I'm so sorry to tell you all, but I completely killed it. I destroyed it so bad. I was so good in my audition that you guys shouldn't even try anymore. Like, I just want to let you know, you should probably get your hopes down. Like, so far down that you can't even, like, imagine. Like, your hopes, just no more, don't even have any hopes, man. Because I was just that good, bro. And Tim, being the one who actually heard the audition, is just, like, cringing in his seat because he's like, oh, God. I don't know if, like, he can't tell if this kid is just delusional or he's truly believing that he can cocky his way out of it. Like, he can just be, I don't know, so, like, arrogant or whatever that he will arrogant his way out of this situation, which kind of makes no sense, but whatever. Yeah, so eventually the next day comes around, and there's a lot of nervous energy coming into school because after lunch on the bulletin board was going to be posted a list of who got what part in the play. So, yeah, in the play, the list was on there. People were sitting at lunch, or the list was not out yet. People were sitting at lunch, super antsy, super nervous. The only one who wasn't nervous was the spoiled kid because I don't know if he genuinely believed it or he just thought he needed to continue the front that he was putting up, but he was not nervous at all, or at least his nervousness was on the inside if there was any. So eventually, lunch ends and everyone pours out to the bulletin board, and sure enough, the list is up there. And Tim doesn't even go look because he knows the bulletin board is going to be crowded by people desperately trying to get a look, just a peek to see where they fit on the school play. And Tim genuinely doesn't care, so he's kind of thinking to himself, okay, I will learn where I am on the school play when it's time to come. Like, I don't really care right now. Tim wasn't the only person who didn't immediately rush to the board. The other person who didn't do that, probably some other people, but another person who didn't immediately rush to the board was the spoiled kid. Because once again, the spoiled kid was putting on a front, but let's say he genuinely believes that he has the part, no problem. He's got it in the bag. So he casually walks up and he stands beside Tim. He's like, look at these people going so crazy over a part that they didn't even get. So sad, isn't it? So sad. And Tim's like, okay. And yeah, so there's a lot of dejected faces. I think like the number one role was Mary Poppins and everybody wanted it. So a lot of people walked away looking sad, except Kate, the girl that we talked about earlier, who legitimately does plays on the weekend. And this is like acting is like a big thing that she does. She looked pretty happy. So Tim almost immediately realized that the spoiled kid did not get a part. And the spoiled kid must have noticed this too, because he makes a comment to Tim saying, poor Kate, she was really good. She was really good. She was a close runner-up to me, and I mean, by close, I mean second place, meaning 1 billion points behind me. But look at her face. She looks so happy. Maybe she got like a secondary part that was really good. Or maybe she just can't even comprehend the fact that she didn't get the main part. And she's like trying to like cope with it right now. I don't know. Either way, sad to see her fall off so hard. And Tim's like, bro. So eventually Tim's like, all right, do you want to look for yourself? And the spoiled kid looks a little nervous for a second. He's like, yeah, sure. And they go up to the board. They walk up there. And most people have cleared out by now. And Tim sees his name at the bottom, like Jimmy or something. They just made up some character named Jimmy, and Tim's like, all right, bet, whatever. I'll get like one line or something, but I'm cool with that. I genuinely don't care when it comes to that stuff, bro. Like, that is genuinely fine with me. And, you know what Tim sees? that right next to his name is the spoiled kid's name to play Benny, another random character that was just made for people who didn't really have any main part talent, if you know what I mean. Like, Tim was totally fine playing Jimmy or whatever, right? But when the spoiled kid saw that he was playing Benny, he's like, whoa, 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 this must be a little mistake. So he's like, okay, you know what? I'm not too worried. I'm just going to bring this up with the theater director tomorrow, because it's totally cool that he just made a little mistake here. And you know what? Dude, we all make mistakes. I really can't hold it against him, bro. I can't hold it against him. And Tim is just looking at him. He's like, okay, this kid is in straight denial. So the next day comes around, and it's finally time for the first rehearsal of the play. Secret word of the day is play, so if you made it this far into the video, comment play down below. And also, while you're in the comment section, make sure to check out the pinned comment, as there's a link to the Spotify page, which I upload my stories as podcasts every single day, so make sure to go follow that. And also, in the pinned comment are a link to my 2 other YouTube channels, which I post daily on. Please subscribe to them, as it really would help me out. Yeah, so anyways, the next day is finally the day that they go into the play, right? Or the first rehearsal of the play. And this is the first day in which, or on the first day, right, the play director is like, all right, guys, because everyone gathers around. I think you all saw your parts, right? You know, I'm going to, like, here, if you look to my left, there's drawers where we have all the costumes in them, and you can go find your parts and you can look at them. Today we're going to be doing a dry run of the dress. We're going to do a dry run without any clothing by wanting you to see all the props. After that, I'm going to have, there's a stack of scripts on that table. Go ahead and grab one, as we will run through the play and you can read your scripts. And so, yeah, sure enough, eventually the spoiled kid, everyone kind of goes over to go get their props to look at them and maybe like mess with them a little bit, whatever, right? The spoiled kid goes up to the play director and it's like, hello, Mr. Director. Look, I just wanted to let you know that you did something so embarrassing. And the play director's like, oh, what did I do? He's like, so you like accidentally didn't put me as Mary Poppins. I know, it's funny just saying it, but I just want to let you know, just because, like, I don't know, if I had a really huge typo that would totally mess up some people's, like, schedules and stuff, I would just want to let them know. So I'm just doing to you what I would do to me, right? What I would appreciate in a student. So I just want to let you know. And the play director's like, oh, well, I appreciate you coming out to help me or something, but I just want to let you know that that was actually not a typo. I think that you will excel in the role of Benny. Some random ass character he just made, bro. Lol. Anyways, yeah, and the spoiled kid looks at me. He's like, what? Wait, sir. Whoa, sorry. I would take a little breather here. So you're saying I didn't get the part of Mary Poppins? And the play director's like, yeah, I think you will do better at being Benny. Some character that doesn't even exist, dude. And the spoiled kid's like, okay. Okay. And he, like, literally just walks out. And the play director's like, oh, well, you didn't take that well, but okay. Everyone else go and get your plays or whatever. So sure enough, people go around and they grab their scripts. And they go through the dress rehearsal, and Tim's just thinking to himself, well, I guess the kid took it better than I thought. And if he didn't take it better, well, at least he's not taking it well off camera, right? He's not taking it bad in front of us. So, yeah, sure enough, everyone is just kind of like going through their lines, going through their script, whatever. And it was a pretty successful first rehearsal. I mean, as successful as a first rehearsal, first run-through actually can be. So, yeah, it was pretty good. And they come back the next day, and the play director meets them at the door and says, guys, I'm so sorry to say this, but all the costumes have been ruined. So everyone's like, whoa, what happened? At first, like, I don't know, Tim was like, oh, maybe the room that they were stored in had like a pipe leak and they all got covered in water and they got drenched or whatever and the clothing's are beyond repair. And the director says, I don't know what happened, but someone came in and they cut up all the clothing with a pair of scissors or some kind of knife or something. They cut through all the clothing. It's all ruined. You can't wear it. We might need to scrap the play and do something else. So obviously everyone's kind of freaking out because this was a really big deal. This was a big deal because like they had a budget. And the play director already spent the budget on the costumes, and then all of a sudden, the costumes magically get torn apart and shredded and cut into small little pieces. Ideally, after this kid gets... it's a little suspicious. And Tim starts to think to himself, what if there is actually a correlation? That's when the doors burst open, and you see a janitor walk in holding like the spoiled kid by like the scruff of his shirt, and in the other hand, a pair of scissors. So everyone's like really taken aback by this, and the janitor's like, is this the acting class or whatever? And the director's like, yes, like what's going on? He's like, I caught this kid in here like 10 minutes ago, like with these scissors, cutting up all the clothes. Like by the time I got here, he was already done, but I wanted to like report him to the proper person. So at that point, the entire class looks, and they look at the face of the spoiled kid, and they know that he... How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have one of the craziest Karen stories I have ever received, and I know you will enjoy it, so sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's just get right into it. We're going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story Max. So anyways, Max was in the 5th grade, and at Max's school, the 5th grade play was like the biggest deal ever, at least, to the 4th graders, the 3rd graders, it was so cool every single year. The theater director, because like the first year that the kids in that school got theater, since the school went through 8th grade, was 5th grade, and the theater director liked starting the school year off with a bang, so they always had the coolest 5th grade play ever, and all the younger kids were so excited to see it. It was also a pretty big deal in the 5th grade, that play was as well, and also who got what part, and who got the lead, who got whatever, even though it was kind of a big deal. I mean, kids wouldn't like fight over it that crazy or anything. If anything, it was a big deal for the parents, or at least the parents who cared a little bit too much. So let's just skip to the first day of auditions. So the play that they were doing was Cinderella. For, the one person who doesn't know the fairy tale Cinderella, basically there's this girl who like is like a handmaid, or is like a basically cleans the house of another of like these 3 evil stepsisters or something, or I think that they're related to, yeah, so she is basically forced to be like cleaning up the house and all in rags or whatever, and the super handsome Prince Charming sees Cinderella at the ball after okay, this is gonna sound weird, after a magic pumpkin gets her there, but basically, right, the magic wears off at 12, so she runs away from him, but she leaves her slipper, and the Prince Charming's trying to figure out who the girl is by her shoe size, because no one else has a size 6, Jeremy, of course not. But anyways, right, eventually, the stepsisters, the evil ones who are apparently very ugly, unlucky, they try and shove their foot in there, and they like mutilate it to get in there. It's disgusting. Fairy tales are disgusting. But anyways, eventually Cinderella's foot gets in there. So that is the play, that's the synopsis, and the really big role is Cinderella and also Prince Charming. There's a ton of roles, right? There's like 30, 35, 40 kids in the 5th grade, so they have to have a lot of roles. Not everyone can be pulling the curtain. It can't be like 6 people on stage and like 15 people pulling one curtain, 13 pulling the other, 15 like handing out the like pamphlets. There were some kids who didn't really want to be on stage, but the majority, they were given roles if they wanted to. But the really big role that people were auditioning for was both Cinderella and Prince Charming. And Max was a bit of a theater kid himself. It was kind of his forte, and not a lot of the other guys were really gunning for Prince Charming, so Max more or less got that role in the bag. However, the role of Cinderella was much more contested amongst the girls, because they were thinking like, oh my god, Cinderella, that's me, right? So there were plenty of them, and one of them, we're just going to call her Ava. And this girl, Ava, was actually quite talented, was a pretty good actor, at least for being a 5th grader, she's a pretty good actor. And there was another girl named Audrey who also really wanted the role. And she just wasn't as good. I mean, look, dude, they're in 5th grade, life can change, but at this moment, it was pretty clear that the role was, like, set for Ava. So Max and Ava were actually kind of friends, and they were talking at lunch a few days before the audition. And, Max and Ava were sitting there, and Ava's like, hey, like, congrats on basically having the role of Prince Charming. Max responds, hey, like, congrats on almost having the role of Cinderella. And Ava's like, well, it's less sure. Like, look, your spot isn't that contested. There isn't really even a boy in our grade who wants that role besides you, so that's basically set. While I think that I'm pretty good for the role of Cinderella, Audrey really wants it as well. And Max is like, Ava, you're a better actor, you're a better fit, and the person running the play, he knows this. Like, I'm being an idiot. What's that called? I guess play director. Yeah, the play director obviously knows you're better. But Ava's like, I don't know. Audrey really wants it. And you know how Audrey's mom gets when she doesn't get something that she wants. So yes, officially Karen reveal time. So Audrey had a mom who was notoriously a Karen. She was notoriously a Karen because in second grade, when Audrey didn't get like a check plus on her like project that her and her mom worked on, the Karen, Audrey's mom, aka the Karen, I'm just going to call her the Karen from here on out. The Karen stormed into class and demanded that like Audrey get a check plus. And that's when the teacher had to reveal to the Karen that there was no check plus. It was literally check minus check and check plus. And Audrey's Karen mom had to like awkwardly walk out of there. And ever since, Audrey's mom has just garnered this reputation of being a massive Karen, which she is, and which you shall see is, she does something crazy, so you don't want to miss it. But anyways, so Audrey and Ava, are, they're not really friends. They're not really not friends. They're okay, but they immediately stop talking to each other, right? And Max observes this. And, he goes up to Ava. He's like, oh, you and Audrey are kind of cold to each other. Because while they weren't friends before, they were extra cold to each other. They wouldn't even look in each other's eyes. And Ava's like, dude, it's not really me. I swear it's like her. Like, she's like, I try and make eye contact. I try and wave. But she's just like staring right past me. It's weird. And, Max is like, all right, well, I mean, it's probably just nerves because she knows that you're her biggest competition. Let's fast forward to the day of the audition. So basically, right, one afternoon is set aside time for the audition for the play. It's a really low stakes, dude. It's fifth grade. Who even cares? But anyways, right? Dude, fifth grade play is important. Fine, I'm sorry. My fault. But anyways, they all get there, right? And they get there kind of like 5 or so minutes early, or at least the ones that are really trying to gun for certain roles. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to show up 5 minutes early to try and be bush number 7. Like, that's fine. I can just, if I have to be tree number 6, whatever. But anyways, right? So Max is there, Ava's there, and that's when Max and Ava are talking, and Max is like, are you feeling nervous? And Ava's like, yeah, I actually am. Max is like, dude, you totally got this. And that's when they see Audrey coming. But this is when they're like, oh my God, because it's not just Audrey showing up, dude. It's Audrey and the Karen, aka her mom. So Audrey and the Karen appear. And Max is like, dude, why's her mom here? And Ava's like, I don't know, but why is her mom here? So anyways, right, because this was ridiculous. I mean, this isn't like a thing that no one goes and sees the audition for the fifth grade play. You either see the fifth grade play, and maybe if you're a super mega fan who was sitting around like waiting for tickets for 10 days, like you're waiting for like the Star Wars movie to come out or something like that, maybe you see the dress rehearsal. You don't come for the auditions, bro. No one does that. But anyways, right, they get in there, all the kids are in there, the play director is waiting, and Audrey's mom, aka the Karen, finds a folding chair and sits it down. And the play director kind of looks at her and like, hello, ma'am. Didn't really expect any guests, but you're fine watching. And the Karen mom literally just folds her arm in response. Like, she folds her arms and goes, Like, that's literally it. She just doesn't say anything. And play director's like, okay, it's a little weird. But anyways, guys, welcome to the play for Rapunzel. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. But welcome to the play for Cinderella. My fault, boys. But anyways, and like today we'll be doing auditions. Like, if you don't get the part you want, like, don't feel too bad about it. I will make sure that you will have a part that you will have a lot of fun with. I guarantee that. Does anyone want to like go for audition for backstage or more of a managerial role than actually, participating in the play? Bunch of people raise their hands. He's like, all right, you guys wait outside for about like 10 minutes or so. You can go to recess or whatever. The rest of you guys, I'm assuming you are here to try out for one of the main roles in the play. So sure enough, Max goes up there for one is called like the attractive man or whatever in Cinderella. Dude, I don't watch these things. I don't know the name. And he gets it, or Prince Charming, I think was his name, or something stupid like that. Max immediately gets it. No one else even shows up, but play director was like, hey, can you just run some lines? Max does a great job. And then it's like, all right, so now we're doing one more for Cinderella. Anyone for Cinderella? So Audrey, Ava, and some other girls show up. The other girls actually, some of them drop out immediately. They're like, I don't really care that much. I'll be one of the evil stepsisters. I'll be someone in the background. I don't really care. That's when Ava goes up there Ava's Max's friend, just to remind you. And Ava does a really good, a really good job. She obviously is one of the best ones for it. And Max is watching the Karen, who is sitting in the audience and has her arms folded and is just like, has these glasses on. But like, Max could tell that she was like glaring at Ava because that was her daughter's competition. And she knew that, dude. And that's when Audrey went up there. And even before Audrey did anything, the Karen started going like, yes, Audrey, let's go. So good. And Audrey's like, Mom, please. And then the play director's like, all right, silence from the audience. Audrey, hear the lines, say them, like audition, whatever, right? Audrey says them. She does a good job, but in Max's opinion, it's almost very clear that Ava's got the part, right? And afterwards, the playwriter or the play director is like, all right, guys, thank you so much. I have a lot to think about, so the parts will be posted on the bulletin board tomorrow. Remember, if you don't get exactly what you want, these are pretty much my final decisions. I can't really move them around. Unless you want to drop out of a part, then just please let me know about that. Otherwise, you're free to go. And so Max and Ava are walking out, and that's when Max turns around and sees the Karen go up to the play director and is talking to him, and the play director is talking back, and they're kind of the Karen has her arms folded and is probably saying, my child deserves to get the part of Cinderella. You were so clear. Why do you even have to think about it? It was so obvious. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I'm going to try and heart as many comments as possible that say that. I just like seeing the names and faces of people who support the channel by watching at least this far into the video, and I just want to say I do appreciate you. And if you want to support the channel more, which I've been seeing you guys been doing, and thank you so much for it, binge watch these videos, aka that means sitting down or doing something and watching 5, 6, 7, 10 plus videos in a single sitting, which is insane. It boosts the channel even more than you can ever imagine. And if you do so, please let me know what you're doing while you're doing it, or which binge video number you are on, and I'll even shout some people out like I'm doing right now in the comment section to tell me. Anyways, let's get back to the story. Craziest Karen story I think I've ever received. So the next day comes around, and Max, Ava, and everyone are just feverishly waiting for the auditions, but basically the who got what part in the play to be posted on the bulletin board. So they're all kind of just waiting around, and when they're in class, immediately as class ends, they rush over to the bulletin board, and nothing is there, and class ends, and then they rush over again, and nothing is there, and then they're at lunch, but they keep checking again and again until immediately, when they're sitting down to lunch, they hear some kid run in and said, it's been posted, and then Max, Ava, Audrey, and everyone else gets out of their seats and immediately runs over, gets to the bulletin board, and Max starts scanning, right? Max sees, okay, Max is like, all right, I got the part, awesome, and he looks to see who got Cinderella, and he sees it, and it was Ava. Ava got the part. And he looks down, and Audrey was one of the bridesmaids or whatever, the evil sisters or something like that. And Max looks over, and Audrey just is runs away from the bulletin board into the bathroom. Drama happens, man. It's 5th grade, and it's stuff like this happens. And Ava's like, oh, I feel bad. And Max is like, no, you got the part. You both competed, and one of you won fair and square. That's totally fine. And some people might be thinking that this is the end of the saga. Ho, you are so wrong. Because the Karen is very upset that her little baby Audrey did not get the part that she wanted. So you know what will happen? The Karen is about to strike back. The Karen is about to inflict maximum damage. But that's coming up. Stick around. So anyways, right, they're preparing for the next couple weeks, or actually about a month. They're preparing to show the play, so they're practicing their lines. They're doing getting their people that, assigned to make the sets or whatever, that more the artistically inclined people that weren't a big fan of acting were totally on top of that stuff. They were able to tweak the scripts that they wanted to. They were given a very basic, Cinderella script, but they wanted to add a little bit or change some lines. The play director was pretty cool and gave them, kind of artistic freedom or creative freedom in that sense. And yeah, so the next couple weeks go by, and it's the dress rehearsal. It seems like Audrey is pretty happy with her role. She's really kind of embraced being the evil stepsister, and she's having a lot of fun with it. And while Audrey was pretty upset at first that she didn't get the role that she wanted, her and Ava became pretty good friends. and kind of throughout, and or at least maybe not pretty good friends, but they were cool. They would talk during breaks or whatever. They would have good interactions between each other. They had great chemistry, on stage. But you know who was not cool with all of this? You know who was very, 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 very upset? The Karen. Audrey's mom, the Karen, was not having a second of this. She was not having any of this at all. So sure enough, right, the day of the dress rehearsal comes, and it goes super smoothly. It is, everything's totally fine. Some parents, parents are allowed to come and see it if they really want to. However, they're encouraged to see the main premiere instead, but, they can do whatever they want. So some parents come because, maybe they can't make it tomorrow and they feel bad, so they want to at least see the dress rehearsal. Some parents are just so excited to see their kids perform that they come today and tomorrow. And Max was almost certain that the Karen was going to appear, was going to come, right? That she was going to show up because she showed up to the auditions. Why wouldn't she show up to the dress rehearsal too? But the Karen was nowhere to be seen. Max either assumed that, the Karen was like, well, I'm going to see the thing tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. Maybe the Karen had something to do, but he just felt weird about it. There was just something strange and something off. And also Audrey was just seeming a little weird, and everyone just chalked it up to, stage fright or whatever, or butterflies about the real performance tomorrow. But Ava comes up to Max, and Ava's like, hey, so I was just talking with Audrey, and she's being very weird. And Max is like, what do you mean Audrey's being very weird? And Ava's like, she was saying something about, how her mom was getting really upset or something, and how she's afraid her mom's going to say something at tomorrow's performance, how she really wanted her to be, Cinderella. And Ava went on to say, Audrey didn't even really care. She didn't even really care about being Cinderella, but apparently her mom was Cinderella in her play, so the Karen wanted her daughter to also be Cinderella, and it was like, that's why Audrey wanted it so bad. She didn't actually want the role. She didn't care. She could be behind the scenes or tree number 7 if she wanted, and that's probably why she took it so well when she didn't get it. Immediately after, she was upset because she was like, oh my God, what's my mom going to think about this? And, Ava's like, I think Audrey's just over-exaggerating, but I guess we'll see tomorrow. And yes, they did see tomorrow because it gets a little wild. Stick around. Anyways, it's tomorrow. It's the big day. It's the day of the big show. And sure enough, right, everyone is there. The first grade, the second grade, the third grade, the fourth grade, it is the big moment. All the parents are there. Even some of the older kids are kind of lurking in the back, being like, I remember when I did this. Look at them, so young. I mean, what are they, 12? I mean, I'm a whole 13 right now. Whatever, right? I don't know how old you are in 5th grade. But sure enough, they're all behind stage. And, Max, Ava, Audrey are standing there. They've kind of created a little bit of a group because they're friends now. And Max is like, all right, it's the big deal. It's time. This is it, baby. Let's go. And they're all kind of getting hyped. They're all getting excited. And, they're all behind stage. And the play director goes out there and is like, hey, everyone, I'd like you to welcome to the 10th, annual 5th grade play. And everyone's like, oh, whatever, clapping and sure ensues or whatever. And so sure enough, right, the play director's like, all right, I'm going to ask that all cell phones be set to silent. If you're going to record, make sure the flash isn't on, and let's begin. And sure enough, the curtain draws, and it's the opening scene or whatever. It's the 3 evil stepsisters or something. And that's when Ava and Max are behind the scenes. Max doesn't come out for a second, but Ava is about to come out to wash the dishes or something, whatever Cinderella does in the movie. And this is where things get really, really bad. And you're not even going to believe what's about to happen. So Ava walks out there, and before she can say a single line, you hear a yell from the crowd, "Stop the production! Stop the production!" And you see someone standing up, waving both of their hands. So everyone obviously stops. Even the piano guy doing the music in the background is like, what? And that's when Max peeks his head out from behind the curtain. You know who he sees standing up, waving her hands? Yes, it is the Karen. She striked back. And anyways, the Karen waddles up to the front, like moves past people, walks down the center aisle, and is like, "This is outrageous! This is outrageous!" and starts stomping around, bump, 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 bump. She's like, "Stop the production! This is a fraudulent production! This is bad! No! Stop!" And she literally walks up on stage and like in front of everyone. And at this point, right, Max is just watching the whole thing with his jaw absolutely slacked. His jaw is dropped. He's like, what on earth is going on? And the Karen is on stage, points at Ava, right, and says, "She stole the part of Cinderella from my daughter. I was Cinderella when I was in 5th grade, and she needs to be Cinderella too." And she said, "I was there at the audition, Audrey, my daughter." And Audrey's just like has her hands in her, like her face in her hands, like, "Oh my God, Mom, this is literally the worst thing ever." And she's like, I was there at the audition, and my daughter Audrey was 100 times better than this fraud. And points at Ava, right? And Ava starts to tear up because you got this like big old woman on stage yelling at you, calling you a fraud, right? Basically saying that you stole the audition from her daughter. And the Karen goes on to say, "I don't know what, this daughter bribed you with," and pointed at the stage conductor. "I don't know if her mother paid you off or something, but it was ridiculous. It was an outrage, and I can't let this stand. I can't let this stand anymore. I've been sitting on the sidelines for too long, and now I will make my stance. I will not let a fraudulent play go on any longer." And Max in his head's like, "Bro, this is a 5th grade play. This is not Broadway. Sit down. Like, this is crazy." And at this point, right, the stage director is, or not the stage director, but like the play director, who was in complete shock, kind of like gets back into it. He kind of shakes himself out of it and stands on stage and is like, "Ma'am, you are ruining a special night for all the kids out there and all the kids on stage and all the parents out there. This isn't about who is what or who does what. It's about, the play. It's about having fun. It was about the journey that we all took to get to this moment. Your daughter loves the role that she has. She was incredible in sculpting the role into what it is. It is more than what it was when I first started. It doesn't matter who your daughter is. It doesn't matter who you were before." He goes on. It's like he had this planned, bro. He has like a perfect monologue. I guess he had a crazy Karen monologue up his sleeve or something. And he's like, "Right now, right, the play has just started. At least let it go. At least let the play continue and allow everyone else to have fun. And allow your daughter to enjoy herself in the role." And the Karen stops for a second. And everyone, including Max, is like, "Oh my God, the play director got to the Karen, right? We're going to be able to go on with the play. Like, yes, they'll have to probably restart it. It's going to have an awkward pause, but we're going to be allowed to go on with the play." He finally got to her. He got through her thick skull, but you know what I mean. But the Karen, you could just see that there was a change in her eyes. And she's like, "No, I will not let this happen. This is outrageous." And that's when the Karen is like, "If you're going to boot me off, I'm not going to let this play happen today or tomorrow or ever." And that's when the Karen goes on a true rampage. So there was a bunch of like scenery and sets and stuff. And the Karen runs back there and starts punching and smashing and breaking over her knees and is like screaming the whole time. She's like, "Ah!" It's a It starts breaking everything in sight. Like, breaks everything possible, right? And there's like, everyone in the audience is talking. She's like going insane. And Audrey's like, Mom, stop. What's going on? And the Karen's like, I'm doing this for you. You should have been Cinderella. And Audrey's like, Mom, I don't care about being Cinderella. And the Karen's like, well, I do. And it goes, boom, 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 smash, boom, just breaks everything on set. And the Karen's like, try and have a play now. And the Karen starts to walk off stage. Everyone was like, boo. Everyone completely boos her, and she like walks back, throws 2 middle fingers up, is like, woo, 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 woo. Literally the worst person on planet Earth, right? So the curtains close, the play director goes and gathers everyone around. Audrey is like in complete tears, right? And the play director's like, Audrey, I'm so sorry. He said, you know what? The audience is here. We know our lines. Yes, we don't have like a third of the props we need, but we don't need them, right? We don't need the props. The play isn't over, guys. The play isn't over. And, you know, sure enough, he was able to rally them together. And so at this point, right, the Karen's being escorted out by security. And as the Karen's being walked out, right, the play director comes out and says, in 1 minute, the play will commence. And everyone's like, yeah! Like, everyone starts exploding. It's almost like, you know, in the last minute of some, like, football game or basketball game where the last point is scored, everyone freaks, like completely flips out. Same reaction times 2 for the freaking 5th grade play. And the Karen starts screaming as she's being pulled out or whatever. And sure enough, they go ahead with the play, and it's a fantastic performance. And afterwards, like, Audrey starts going up to people, like, and it's like, I'm so sorry. And Max and Ava are like, you can't control your mom. It's not your fault. And it ended up being a fantastic performance, and Audrey and Ava and Max continued on being parts of the play for the next 4 or so whatever years, like 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, I guess 3 years or whatever. And yeah, all ends well, minus the click on the
video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it, do it.